The moment I realized the world was ending wasn't when the sky caught fire, or when the ground shook like a wounded animal. It was when the air itself started to taste wrong, thick, and bitter, like I was breathing ashes that hadn't finished burning yet. And I remember thinking in that instant that whatever was happening, whatever had just slammed into the planet, nothing big was going to walk away from it untouched, including me. I was standing on the edge of a river that had always been loud and alive, but suddenly it went eerily quiet. And far off on the horizon, there was this towering black cloud climbing higher and higher into the sky, blotting out the sun like a close an eye. I knew, deep down, that the age of giants was over. But here's the question that still haunts me. When everything massive and powerful was wiped out, what actually survived? And why did I survive when so many others didn't? I'm telling you this because people love to talk about dinosaurs, like they were the ultimate rulers of Earth, invincible monsters that dominated everything around them. But what I lived through showed me something very different, something almost cruel in its irony. So tell me honestly, as you listen to this, if you had been alive when the sky fell and the world burned, do you think you would have survived? Or would you have been crushed under the weight of being too big, too visible, too dependent on a world that vanished overnight? Before everything ended, my world was loud, green, and impossibly alive. I wasn't a dinosaur myself, not one of the towering giants everyone imagines when they hear that word. I was small, warm-blooded, covered in coarse fur that trapped heat against my skin during the cool nights. Most days, my entire existence revolved around staying hidden. I lived in the shadows of giants, literally and figuratively, darting between roots, slipping into burrows, always listening. The ground thundered constantly from the footsteps of massive herbivores moving in herds, and every tremor sent a jolt of instinct through my body, reminding me that one careless step from them could end me just as surely as the jaws of a predator. I learned early on that size wasn't power. Not really. Speed, caution, and adaptability were power. I watched enormous predators tear into prey with terrifying efficiency, only to collapse days later from infections or injuries they couldn't recover from. I watched massive herbivores strip entire valleys bare, then struggle when the seasons shifted and the food thinned. Meanwhile, I survived on scraps, insects, seeds, anything I could gnaw or swallow. My home was a network of tunnels beneath the earth, a dark, cramped maze that smelled of damp soil and safety. Underground, the world was quieter, steadier, and most importantly, hidden. Then came the day the sky betrayed us. It started with a flash so bright it turned shadows inside out. Even from hundreds of miles away, the impact felt like the planet itself had been struck by a god's hammer. The ground heaved, trees snapped, and a wall of heat rolled across the land so fast it felt like my fur was trying to ignite. I barely had time to dive into my burrow before the air above became a roaring furnace. Inside the earth, I curled into myself, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest as the world screamed. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time lost meaning when the sun disappeared. Ash rained from the sky in thick, choking sheets, seeping into every crack. When I finally crawled back to the surface, the world I knew was gone. Forests were flattened and burned to blackened skeletons. The river was clogged with dead fish and floating debris. The air was dim, as if twilight had decided to stay forever. And the giants, the creatures that once defined the landscape, were gone or dying. I remember seeing one of the massive herbivores lying on its side near the riverbank, its chest barely moving, eyes glazed and unseeing. This was a creature that had lived for decades, that needed mountains of food every single day just to exist. Now it couldn't find enough to survive? Another week. That's when it hit me with horrifying clarity. The extinction wasn't just about the impact, it was about everything that came after. The firestorms, the darkness, the cold, the collapse of the food chain. The world had become a place where being big was a death sentence. Days turned into weeks of darkness. The temperature dropped sharply, and the ash cloud blotted out what little warmth the sun could offer. Plants withered and died. Herbivores starved. Carnivores followed soon after, having nothing left to hunt. The air smelled of decay, and the silence was worse than the noise had ever been. I survived by doing what I had always done, hiding, conserving energy, eating whatever I could find. Insects thrived in the rot, and seeds buried in the soil became lifelines. My burrow became my entire universe. I wasn't alone. I started noticing others, like me, small creatures emerging cautiously from hiding, sniffing the air, sharing the ruins of a world that no longer belonged to giants. There were reptiles that could slow their metabolism to a crawl, birds that could fly long distances to find pockets of food, amphibians that retreated into water and mud to escape the worst of the cold. Life didn't end. It changed. It shrank, simplified, and adapted. What really survived the dinosaur extinction wasn't strength or dominance. It was flexibility. It was the ability to eat almost anything, to live almost anywhere, to wait out disaster rather than fight it. Head on, I watched as entire species vanished because they were too specialized, too dependent on a stable world. Creatures that needed specific plants, specific climates, specific prey, had nowhere to turn when everything they relied on disappeared. Meanwhile, generalists like me endured as time went on. The darkness slowly began to lift. The ash settled. Weak sunlight filtered through the sky once more, and with it came the first signs of recovery. Ferns were the pioneers, sprouting everywhere, green and stubborn, covering the scars of the burned earth. Insects followed, then small reptiles and mammals, each one rebuilding the world piece by piece. The giants never returned, not like before. Their absence was a constant reminder of how fragile dominance really is. About halfway through all of this, when survival had become routine rather than panic, I found myself facing a strange kind of guilt. Why me? Why did I get to live when creatures so much more magnificent had vanished forever? I would stand at the edge of clearings where massive bones lay half buried in ash and soil, silent monuments to a lost age, and I'd wonder if survival was something to celebrate or something to feel ashamed of. So this is where I want you to pause for a second. Put yourself in my place. If you had survived the end of the world while everything bigger, stronger, and more impressive died, would you feel lucky? Or would you feel haunted by the question of why you were spared? Before I tell you how it all finally settled, think about what choice you would have made if survival itself came with that kind of weight. The turning point came when the world began to warm again. Seasons returned, subtle at first, then more defined. Plants diversified beyond ferns. Trees, smaller and faster growing than the ancient forests, took root. With them came new opportunities and new dangers. Predators returned too, but they were smaller, quicker, smarter. The world was no longer built for slow-moving giants. It favored alertness, intelligence, and adaptability. I changed over generations. My kind grew more varied, experimenting with new diets, new behaviors, ways of living. Some took to the trees. Others became better diggers. Intelligence became a survival tool as important as teeth or claws. We learned to remember, to plan, to teach our young, more than just instinct. The extinction event didn't just wipe the slate clean. It set the stage for something entirely new. The climax of this long, slow-to-recovery wasn't a single dramatic moment, but a realization that hit me one quiet morning. I was foraging near a young grove of trees, sunlight warming my back, birds calling overhead, when I realized the world felt alive again. Different, but alive. The terror that had defined my existence for so long had faded into memory. I wasn't just surviving anymore, a living. The aftermath of the extinction was a reshaping of life itself. Mammals like me would eventually grow larger, more complex, filling niches once dominated by dinosaurs. Birds, descendants of feathered dinosaurs, would rule the skies. Crocodiles, turtles, and sharks, ancient and resilient, would continue almost unchanged. Silent proof that some designs are simply too effective to erase. What really survived the dinosaur extinction was not any single species, but a set of traits: adaptability, patience, and the ability to endure hardship without breaking. Now, looking back across that unimaginable span of time, I understand that survival was never about being the strongest in the moment. It was about being able to outlast disaster, to bend without snapping, to find opportunity in ruin. The giants taught me that dominance is temporary. The aftermath taught me that resilience is forever. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this: the world doesn't belong to the biggest or the fiercest. It belongs to those who can change when everything else falls apart. If you were on my side, if you believe survival itself can be a kind of quiet strength, like this video, subscribe for more stories like this, because there are countless untold moments hidden in the past and present. And share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section, because I still wonder what choice you would have made. I'll see you all in the next story.